What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Seth Plays, and we are back again with some more Trove, and today we're finally going to be doing that definitive video that so many of you have been requesting of me, where I'm going to be talking about all the mods that I've been using on the PC version of Trove. I'm going to try and give a bit of a summary to what each of the mods ends up actually doing as well, and although there is a mods section on the PC version of the game, and this does actually contain some of the mods that I'm using, it doesn't contain all of them. So instead we're going to end up ignoring this list, and I'm going to be referring to the ones that I actually use in trovetools.net, which is a program that you can actually link very easily with you know, your Steam folder or just your normal Trove glyph folder, because I of course don't run Trove on Steam, which means that I don't have access to Steam Workshop items. Instead I just use Trove Tools, the Trove Tools program for all this. Now I'm gonna link put a link in the description to where you can actually pick up the program itself. And then all you gotta do, you know, I've got other tutorials that explain how you actually use trovetools.net. It's a great tool, like seriously. All you're gonna do is link it with your Trove account, and then you will just quite literally use the program to search up various mods based on their names and stuff like that. So anyways, right at the top of my list is the Miniboss Radar, which is going to end up doing just this. This beam of light that you actually see coming up is referring to any of the bosses in the game. Like, it's going to end up referring to dungeon bosses as well as elite mobs. So elite mobs are going to be the bigger, fatter version of just random enemies that you find out in the environment. So you can see right here that although the stream is looking like there's actually quite a few in there, I think it's safe to say that there's probably only 2 of them. But it's going to end up referring to invaders as a mini boss as well, as you can see. So they got their own custom stream. So it's pretty handy, most of all because a lot of dungeons, like you see right there, that was actually a mini boss right there. And we know immediately that if we end up killing them, they're going to end up actually dropping stuff, dropping loot, dropping other items and stuff like that. So it's very, very useful for dungeon farming, especially because then you know exactly where you're dumping or diving into in the dungeon, because pretty much the late game of Trove is just using bombs like left and right? And then there's going to be the customized video effects or customized VFX for Shadow, Radiant, and Stellar drops. So the game actually does have its own organic, you know, custom VFX for all of these drops, but it's not good enough. Personally, I don't think that it is as good as what this mod ends up doing. There's actually quite a few of these mods that actually changed what shadows, stellars, and all of that stuff look like, but this one I feel is not only subtle but also very, very well designed, in that it lets you know immediately like what the item is that's around you. So if we end up just breaking this chest, there's a shadow item just for an example, and it's going to end up having a nice shadow aura to the effect of the weapon, while also having the shadow underneath it, and then just the beam going up to the sky. Now the big reason for this is because you wouldn't believe how many times you know, you'll run past a dungeon and you forgot a stellar, or you forgot a shadow item or something back at the dungeon that you wanted to get, but you just completely forgot or just didn't even know it was there. This is especially apparent in a dungeon like this one right in front of us right here, where you would actually go underground, and then as you're walking away from the dungeon, the trail is going to take a little while to actually go up to the skybox, but you might turn your camera around and you might see a white glow, which means radiant, and a yellow glow, which means that it is a stellar, and then you just, you know, gotta run back to go and pick that up. Then we've got the Karma Tooltip mod. Now the vanilla game in the improvements update ended up introducing this little checkbox down here to automatically continuously open boxes until there was a rare. Unfortunately, they didn't end up taking in as much influence, I think, from the Karma Tooltip mod, because what this does is you click the little smiley face right here, and you can quite literally tell it to open boxes 5, 10 at a time, 35 at a time, 70 at a time. It's all toggled. Or just all at once. And now the mod is actually pretty smart too, because if we open Chaos Chest, you can see fill. Now fill is going to actually have it fill all the way to Karma Bar. And more importantly too, with this mod, you can actually hover over the Karma Bar and it'll say that we are actually at the 8th Chaos Chest right now, and it's going to take 62 more Chaos Chests before we end up reaching the Karma Bar right here. So it's very, very useful mod in terms of like just opening chests and everything like that. Like it does everything that the vanilla game should actually do. I still am a little bit disappointed that while the improvements update did definitely give console players a bit more of an edge, I do feel that these mods being here for years already is something that should have already been, you know, kind of rehashed into the game, if not just ported directly into the game's code or something like that. Like even the custom video effects for Shadows, Radiant, and Stellars, that actually was originally a mod, and then way later the devs ended up actually making it so that Radiance and Stellars were distinguishable from Shadow items, because once upon a time they all just ended up looking the same. Or maybe it's that the Shadow items or Radiant items and Stellar items all look the same. I forget, it's been years, like literally. So anyways, the next mod is going to end up being Boss Health Bar. So let me just skip on ahead so that we can actually get to Spike Walker here. Now, this being a boss on normal mode, I probably should have upped the difficulty. It means I'm probably just going to one-shot him, so I'm hoping that I can just get the health bar to actually show up. So you see at the top of the screen, we can see a percentage value, as well as the total amount of health the boss actually has. And then underneath the health bar is going to end up being your team DPS, that's damage per second. So when everybody's contributing, you're going to see just how much damage you're actually doing right then and there. And then the average DPS is going to kind of average out to how much damage you're actually doing per second. So you'll see a lot of burst damage end up coming into play with some of the classes, and every time somebody ends up actually popping a flask and stuff like that. And then finally at the end, there's going to end up being a time limit for those of you that actually like doing proper speed running on these guys and stuff like that. However, you see that we just defeated him like absolutely instantly, so it doesn't actually show any of that on the health bar, but it is still extremely useful. And then I also use the Waypoint Addition mod, and that one is, I don't really use it nearly as much as you would think, because you don't really see it that much in the videos, but let me go and try to find an example of this. All right, so apparently this mod is actually not working for me right now because I have the Meteorite Waypoint mod active. So normally I guess I would have to turn that off, and then it would essentially end up having various resources out in the environment show up as this nice little waypoint right here. And as you end up getting into the draw distance, you're going to see this end up popping up for various resources. But again, I'm using the Meteorite one, where it actually just shows a nice little bookmark or highlight or waypoint, quite literally, that is designed fairly well. It's actually 3D too, which is pretty cool, and it's going to show in the middle of the icon right there what the actual resource is that you're going for. So you're going to be able to see Shapestone as well as various other things as well. But yeah, again, the Waypoint Addition mod I'm not actually using. I mean, I actually have it activated, but it says that it will not work so long as I have the Meteorite one active, and that's perfectly fine for me. I just like having both of them there. The next mod I don't use as often as I used to, just because a lot of things have ended up changing with Trove, and sometimes this ends up conflicting. But Enhanced UI is going to make it so that when you have various pieces of your inventory or your class menu open and stuff, it's going to end up basically removing the weird boxes that are on the top and bottom, kind of just make things a little bit more, well, enhanced for the UI. So you guys can check that out in the description. But again, it's not really a mod that I'm rocking as often anymore. It does have a lot of benefits to it. And then we've got the item per hour tracker, which quite literally is going to end up tracking how many items you're getting per hour based on the amount that you're getting at the moment. So you can see for the meteorite fragments, we've gotten 7 within an hour, 7 of them. Or where is it? Come on, it's too laggy. So there, we ended up getting another one of them. So it's saying that we're getting 145 meteorite fragments within an hour if we keep the pace up that we've got right now. So it's a very, very useful, you know, tracker for all this stuff, and kind of just categorizes everything very nicely and neatly. So it's really, really good. Then there's also the easy Exodave easy to see biomes. This is a mod that makes it so that the more specifically, it would actually be for the ice biome and the neon biome, but I'm not really near any of those right now. Basically, you know, when you end up going into the neon biome and everything gets really, really dark, or if you go into the ice biome and everything gets way too bright, yeah, that's exactly what that mod is going to end up removing. It just makes it a lot easier to actually see that stuff. Come to think of it, it seems that it actually affects this biome as well, because normally there's kind of the fog going on with it, as well as the Everdark. So anyways, you can check through the mod yourself, but I guess we could actually see right here, right now, that there's not really any fog video effects or anything like that going on. I'm so used to running these mods that I just expect the game to look the way that it does, when it's like, this is not normally how the game looks, and it's so strange to me to think otherwise. Then we got the quick class UI, which quite literally is you just hop this open right here and you can see all the classes without having to scroll through any of them. Of course, this wouldn't affect console anyway, because selecting classes is kind of a garbage system where you gotta scroll through them all, which, I mean, it makes sense. I get it. You're using a controller, but seriously, what is with that? And then we've got a couple costume mods that I have in my Trove tools, but I'm not actually using them, so we'll skip over that. I have the customized video effects buffs for Arcane and Martial Emblem, so that's why you see when I pop a flask. Oh, I'm actually not using Arcane because I'm out just in the middle of the world here. Let's use Martial right here and pop a flask in 1 more second. Boop! See that fire that's going around us? That's the Martial Emblem. I like using this mod because I feel that it's a lot easier to tell when Martial or Arcane is actually active. Arcane is going to be the exact same thing, just blue fire. There are actually more advanced versions of, not necessarily that mod specifically, but this type of mod that make Arcane and Martial actually not only look very, very distinct, but there is one that actually has a little counter in the middle of your screen next to your crosshair, which I think Trove could definitely stand to have a little bit more stuff like that, just so that the metagame was a little less confusing for people. But I mean, you know, as of right now, I just kind of use a pot and then you wait for the fire video effects to go away, and then you just end up popping in our flask, right? And it's as easy as that. Then I have a custom video effects for the Neon Ninja for your class ability, or, well, not your class ability, your 3 stacks ability. So as we end up tagging an enemy right here, is it not working on this character? Maybe it's because this costume actually uses custom VFX. Let me actually see if I can end up swapping over to another costume, and maybe that'll end up doing it. Let me just swap over to a default one, in fact. But otherwise, this mod might be conflicting with another one. Maybe that's why it's not working. There it is. Okay, so the fire that goes around our character is supposed to be showing quite literally, you have 3 stacks. So it's kind of a, you know, kind of the same as the Arcane. It's using kind of the same flame video effects, which is could end up being a little bit confusing. Honestly speaking, I'm not really maining Neon Ninja or anything like that, so I just think that the mod's cool, but I probably will actually uninstall it after this. But for those of you interested in it, you can pick it up. It just makes it very, very easy to tell when you're at 3 stacks, because some of the costumes, you know, can end up being a bit confusing for that, but whatever. And then we've got the Dungeon Chest Radar, which that one is another mod that I don't inherently need to use, but I just kind of have it. What it's going to do is quite literally the exact same as the boss radar, but instead it's going to be for the dungeon chest itself, and that's going to end up always being represented by this big yellow light right here. And it's helped me out a couple times. There's a radiant drop, by the way. Helped me out a couple times, more so than not, so I definitely want to keep that you know, mod actually installed. And then we've got the damage coefficiency stat. So if you open up your stats value right here, you're actually going to see coefficiency right down here. It might be a bit blurry because I actually have my recording software to blur out the chat, but otherwise it's just mostly for the end game people, so that they can end up seeing the coefficiency of your entire character and kind of just gauging the numbers quite literally to see how powerful you are based on all the gems and everything like that you end up having. Then I use the Invisible Revenant mod. Most of all, I use this one for my screenshots and stuff like that. So what this essentially is going to do is just replace your starting costume with an invisible suit. The reason for this is because you can always type /hide player, but that of course is going to end up making you as well as your mount invisible. Now there's a couple different mods for this. One that I would actually recommend over the Revenant one is the one that makes the knight invincible, because with the Revenant your camera angle is a lot higher because the Revenant is like so tall, and it makes it really difficult for me to take screenshots of some of these creatures and dragons and junk like that. So I personally should actually swap over to the knight version of the mod. mod. I've just been too lazy to actually go out of my way and do that, right? Then we've got quest rings. Quest rings is, okay, let me see if I can find a dungeon here. All right, so we had to find a cursed skull because this is what's affected by it. Essentially, the rings that are normally around the cursed skulls are going to end up being the same, but it's going to end up having this kind of disco ball thing going around it, Thunderdome style. And this is going to end up actually being a vertical, you know, kind of thing where we can actually see the top of this, and it's kind of a nice way of determining like how big the quest ring actually is, and makes it a little bit easier to tell like when you're actually in the combat zone to be able to complete the dungeon. I just like it because I like you know, the mods that make the game a little bit more graphically impressive. I guess it's not really the best, but I just really like it, so that's why I ended up going for it. And it is kind of useful because it does help out when you're going through some of the dungeons and stuff like that. Then I have liked worlds. I don't think that I need this mod anymore because they ended up actually adding a little Xbox X that you could end up clicking on. I'm pretty sure in the vanilla game since the improvements update, because once upon a time ago you couldn't actually unlike a club world if you didn't go into the club world and then actually click on the prop, you know, the prop heart, right? So I guess the mod that I'm using technically doesn't need to exist anymore, which explains why it was last updated in 2017. But hey, I still like it anyways, so I just keep it, right? And then there's also another mod, only power rank and sigil, that's in the top left. So sometimes you guys and gals may have noticed that my power rank sigil has been, you know, the wings have actually changed to a lower tier. That's because what the mod does is it just gets rid of the power rank number right here and ends up getting rid of the level right here, and then it's just the power rank and sigil. Oh man, I like really confused myself on that sentence. So it gets rid of the level. It doesn't actually get rid of the power rank. What am I thinking? It's power rank and sigil, right? But sometimes when you have that mod on, it conflicts, and the wings on my power rank sigil will actually end up changing to one of the lower tiered ones. But I don't really rock that mod anymore just because of that, because I find that it conflicts a little bit too much. It's still a good mod though, so I will leave it in the description, but it's not one that I'm actually using anymore. And then I also have lagless crafting. This is quite literally what it says. When you're crafting things, it definitely lags a lot less than it would if you were just crafting things normally. I mean, personally, I think that the crafting definitely needs a bit of an overhaul because it does take like a little too long to actually do all this stuff. Then we've got the super hot bar. So you've probably already noticed on my hot bar, we actually have, you know, the energy counter as well as just abilities and stuff like that. And even when we have like our class gem ability, where is a character that will actually show it, like the Draco right here, where we see that there is actually a gold kind of stellar ring around it instead of the normal radiant ring that would end up being around the class gem ability, right? So it's a very, very useful one. Has a lot of other things that are benefits to it, which I mean, every time you see like the counter, the time limit that's on our hotbar right now is because of this mod. So it's a very, very useful one that I wish again would have actually just been in the vanilla game. So super hotbar is definitely one I recommend. Then I actually have the clean dot crosshair. That's what I'm using for the little dot that's in the center of my screen. Last I checked, the mod doesn't exist anymore. So I ended up actually, like what ended up happening is the mod didn't exist anymore, but Sweet Zion 3 ended up asking me for the actual mod because they liked the fact that it was just a dot in the middle of the screen. And they have since actually re-uploaded the original mod. So now it's there under Sweet Zion, because the original modder, I guess, ended up just getting rid of it or something. I'm not exactly sure why, but this is the best out of all of the crosshairs in the game, I think, because the game honestly doesn't really need crosshairs. And then I use two other mods you'll see often during live streams and stuff that are very, very useful for me, but simultaneously I complain about a lot, which is Exodave's Better Invites and Better Invites Pro mods. Now, what the Better Invites mod is going to do is essentially when somebody invites you, the box that normally shows up is going to show up a little bit higher on your screen, and it's going to generally be a little bit less annoying than it normally would be. The Better Invites Pro, which I love, except for one fatal flaw with it, is that it's going to end up blocking invites in general. So people are not going to, I'm not going to see people inviting me on my screen at all. But it means that I can stay out of Do Not Disturb and people can still end up joining me, right? Really, really cool. But it's got one bad thing that I absolutely hate about it, which is like so, I don't know. It's just, it's very annoying to me personally, I would say, where when somebody ends up sending me an invite to the boss room of Daughter of the Moon, this is Ultra Daughter of the Moon only, it will automatically have me join that person. It doesn't show up on the top of my screen with the option of me being able to join them. It will just interrupt my play and have them just invite me blatantly out of whatever I was doing. And I've had this happen multiple times where it invites me like out of Shadow Towers and stuff like that. But that's also just because a lot of people know about this, and so they try to invite me to the boss room and stuff like that. But either way, then we've got the Egg Finder mod, which is probably going to take me a little while to yeah, just give me a minute. I gotta go into the geode caves and try to find an egg so I can show you what this looks like. Whew, I do not miss the geode area, dude. This is like 5 minutes later. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to show you guys and gals what it does, but quite literally, it just means that when you see like a bronze, silver, or gold egg in the environment, it's going to have a big glow around it. You can search some of my other videos where I ended up actually finding and farming some of the eggs when the geode update first came out, but it makes it very obvious where the eggs actually are, because sometimes you can actually have a hard time finding them. You can actually see too the gas and everything like that. I'm pretty sure is because of the enhanced UI mod. Don't quote me on that one though. I'm not exactly sure because again, I'm running these mods all the time, so I honestly don't really remember what the vanilla of the game is like entirely, right? I'm so spoiled on the PC version. And then the next mod is Pinata Invaders Beam Radar. So this is going to be useless because we don't have the Pinata Invaders going on right now. We actually had that event just come and go. What that essentially would do is just make it so that Pinata Invaders will end up having the beam of light, same as the boss radar. Then up next is the Phoenix Guardian, which is this costume that I'm rocking right here. I've got other videos that are showing the costume and what it actually comes with, as well as a link to the actual proper forum post. Then there is the Superior Marketplace. This is actually a really useful one that I really recommend, because it's going to make it so that the interface is a little bit more optimized. It displays 15 items, enhances the marketplace, and easier to see numbers in general when you're buying and selling and stuff like that, right? So you can see right here, we've got all of our tabs available to us instead of having to scroll down like an idiot, and then just being able to, it's just way better than the original marketplace. The thing that I still find amazing is that people have found these ways to enhance the game far beyond the capability of the core development team themselves, with a game like this being as like old in game engine as it is, you know, like it's pretty crazy. So then we've also got the, I think that's actually it. Yeah, that's it as far as my mods are concerned. So you can see that for the most part, I'm just using a lot of utility mods rather than using any of them that are completely game breaking or changing or anything like that. And I try my best to stay away from a lot of the costume mods, despite the fact that I really like a lot of the costume mods and used to actually run a series on the channel where I would do weekly mod highlights. I do still think that that's actually a really cool thing to do, but generally speaking, it was just way too tedious to try and get all of the different mod files and stuff like that all appropriated and blah blah. So anyways, this was a long overdue video. That's why it was so long. These are all the mods that I'm currently using, including some of them that I'm going to get rid of as soon as this video is done recording, right? But anyways, I'll have links in the description to all this stuff so you guys can check it out for yourselves. And otherwise, I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video and found it helpful in any way, shape, or form, I would appreciate if you would like, sub, and hit that notification bell. Helps me out. But if you want to go the extra mile, you can always sponsor the YouTube channel with that join button down below. There's also a video in the description that's going to explain that. You can also check out a link to my merch store where you can end up buying the more recent Oh Hi Merc shirt. There's also going to be options for those of you that don't have any money to check out the Gawkbox link in the description, which essentially is going to have you play various phone games that end up earning you free money that you can donate to me. There is also another video in the description that explains everything about that. Sign on and stay epic, everybody.